All right, everyone. Welcome back to this Sidereal Astrology forecast. This is for the full moon report on July 8th and 9th, 2017. So a full moon in Sagittarius, yes, the Centaur, conjunct Pluto in a T-square with Jupiter and Mars. Very powerful full moon, to say the least. We're going to dive into this very deep here in just a few minutes, but generally, this is a full moon about doing a status check with our perspective on things. How are we viewing life? How are we viewing our life? What do we see as possible? Potential. What is our purpose? What is our meaning? Do we have meaning? These are all things that are coming to the forefront, and with Pluto is bringing up a lot of fear with this. Pluto has been in Sagittarius since about 2007, and so during this time, our whole perspective and our belief systems have been changing. And this full moon is going to be very close to Pluto, really emphasizing how there's been fears or maybe negative thinking. You know, these past patterns that are preventing us from seeing things a bit more expansively, right? Because as long as we're limiting our beliefs, we're not seeing exactly what is possible. What is the potential? And this full moon is going to help us do that. So with the T-square, it's opposite Mars, so there is some balancing needing to take place, as all full moons do require. Here with Gemini, the practical side. How can we think big, but at the same time stay realistic and grounded into what is practical and possible? Even too, maybe balancing the ego a bit. If we charge forward too fast, we want things too much, we're holding on too tight, there can be a bit of frustration, a bit of blockage with that. So we'll talk about how to work with that. And the square up to Jupiter, the ruler of Sagittarius, in this T-square in Virgo, is reminding us that the great opportunity here is with our work, our personal work on a day-to-day level, whether it's your personal growth, whether it's your work in terms of your career, building these skills, taking things slow and steadily, one step at a time, building upon our skills and improving things and improving ourselves, I think is really the key with this full moon. All right, so let's go ahead and break all of this down here in just a few seconds. All right, so as you saw in the intro, for those of you that are new to the channel, definitely check the link down below because the signs are different in this system. We're using the actual size and location of the full moon. I think if you're used to Western astrology, I believe the full moon's in Capricorn, but if you were to look up at the actual sky, you would see it in Sagittarius. All right, so let's go ahead and break this down. Sagittarius, the Centaur, constellation of the Centaur, half horse, half human. Bottom half horse, top half human. So this is a reminder, of course, of our dual nature, but of the two halves of our being, as there always is, right? And the bottom half in this case having to do with the more instinctual side of ourselves. You know, prior to Sagittarius, we were in a Fucus, we were in Scorpio. This is more about the instinctual, primal, physical aspects of our being. But here it's the horse. And the horse is a very spiritual being in and of itself, but also very wild, right? Free-spirited. And so it's about balancing this aspect of ourself, allowing this aspect of ourself to guide us, right? The bottom half, the horse, is the feet. It's the motion. It's the movement. It's the purpose. It's the direction. Allowing our wild nature, our free-spiritedness, to guide us where we're meant to be guided. So this is why it's so important with Sagittarius to be open to adventurousness, to listen to that free spirit, you know, those instincts that are guiding us to get out there, to expand, to open those horizons, whether mentally, physically, emotionally, literally, right? This is what it's half of it and the foundation of it is about. So the top half, being human, is the spiritual side to this, in the sense that, you know, although there's the wild side of ourself, there's also the purposeful side of ourself. And Sagittarius is the bowman, right? So the person shooting the bow has a clear sight, has a definitive purpose, right? Point, target. And so balancing this with our purposefulness, where is it that we actually want to head? What is it we actually want to do? Where do we actually want to put our energy? So while our wild side is guiding us to expand, it's then implementing the purpose, the mind, that top half, the perspective of what it is we actually want to cultivate. Using the adventurousness, the wild side, to cultivate that sense of purpose and direction. So this is what's being illuminated right now. And usually with full moons in Sagittarius, we do come to this often collective realization about our beliefs, about how we view what's possible, right? And so this is what makes it an excellent time to do this. Great time for doing a status check. How are your beliefs? You know, what aligns with your free-spirited as well as your intention? Are you thinking big, right? What is your perspective on things? Because as long as we're limiting what's possible, that's the only thing that can come into our sphere, right? Are we adventurous, right? Are we willing to view our overall life in such a way that we're removed from it from a top-down perspective, which we'll have this top-down perspective to then see from a greater perspective, a greater vantage point, to then see all of the opportunities, the life path, right, where we can put our intentions and our energy based from that perspective. So very powerful time because of the fact that it's very close to Pluto. Sometimes we'll have a full moon in Sag, you know, once a year, but it won't be that close to Pluto. This one is very close, within a degree, I believe, if not very close to a degree. So Pluto's been here since 2007. This has been bringing up a lot of fears about what's possible, all right? But they've been transforming. We've been shedding away the negative thinking patterns, the fear-based thinking, the limited thinking, right? Because this is, again, what has been preventing us from seeing the possibilities or other possibilities based on what we're limiting ourselves or what the fear is, you know, preventing us from seeing. So I think it's really good to allow this to come up. I think there can be fears coming up at this time, traumas, inhibitions, past patterns, perhaps unhealthy past patterns just in general. And as we become more aware of them, this inner stuff we've brushed under the rug before, and we accept, right? We accept the fear. We accept the worst case scenario. We accept the trauma, whatever it is that comes up. That's where the true power lies in Pluto, because when we're no longer resisting, when we fully accepted a fear or an inhibition or the worst case scenario, what happens? It frees us up, it liberates us, and that's exactly what Pluto helps us do. So I think we will be doing this collectively, but having this insight that the astrology is providing us can really help facilitate this process. And the fact of the matter is we don't know what the future has in store. You know, the mind doesn't know. We may think we know, but we don't. And so the more we're humble to that and open to that, right? The ego's taking the back seat. We're open to the possibilities. We're open to what we don't know as what's possible. That's where I think, you know, a huge part of this transformation is taking place. So, of course, all full moons are about balance, right? So we have Sagittarius, expansion, right, all of that, but completely opposite, that more adventurous spirit, is Gemini, which is more of the practical spirit. So this is a reminder that, of course, it's important to be rooted in what is actually practical, what is realistic, right? So we must balance it with that. And I think seeing what is realistically attainable is already kind of where we've been. You know, the past couple weeks since we started this new moon in Gemini, it's been helping us develop our practical side, right? How we think about things, particularly in terms of the mind, right? And we've been learning a lot. And we've been perhaps developing our capacity to learn, you know, getting more curious, getting more open-minded in the sense of wanting to learn, wanting to exchange ideas, wanting to receive ideas, right? And so that's where we can stay grounded, is with the practical side of things. How can this actually be implemented tangibly in the real world? So a good analogy of this is like the left side of the brain, the right side of the brain. Gemini is the left, the practical, the mathematical, and then Sagittarius is the, you know, you could say spiritual, but maybe creative, right? So the creative imagination. Right, so the possibilities. So it's about balancing both, integrating both. And I think it's very important, not only because of the sun, but Mars is here. Okay, and so over the past couple of weeks, there has been this transformation of our egos. Okay, there perhaps has been a lot of this, as I was saying, maybe frustration or inhibition or lack of confidence or something that we're working on, because Pluto has been helping us again strip away not only our fears here, but with our inhibitions about what we can actually do and accomplish, you know, through those fears. Those fears about what we can do and accomplish are coming up. So the balance point is that we don't want to just go all into Mars, right? We don't want to just go all into, I'm going to do this, I'm going to make it happen, you know, I'm going to take the action regardless of the, you know, whatever. Then that becomes too much concentrated on one side. It tips the scale. That's where the ego can hold on really tight. And then when things don't, you know, happen right away or whatever it is, it can create the frustration, the doubts, the blockage. And vice versa. We don't want to just go into the feelings of fear and all of this without actually seeing how this can be, again, integrated. Both Mars and Gemini are about integration, about living it. Okay, so I think balance with those two, remembering to be patient, taking a step back perhaps. And again, I think the most important thing here is non-attachment. Non-attachment to what we want. Yes, it's a great time to take action, but again, with balance. Being non-attached to outcome and how things turn out. Because again, that's what Pluto is helping us change in our understanding about what's possible. Okay? So I think most of the bulk of that Mars, though, was a couple weeks ago when Mars was actually opposite Pluto. So maybe with this full moon, think back to what you've learned about a couple weeks ago regarding taking the step back, right? Having a more balanced and patient approach to things, while at the same time being willing to take action steps, right? Very important time for action steps. One, because it's a full moon, and the other is because of square to Jupiter. Now, Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius, and this is also the pinnacle, sort of the pivot point of this T-square. As you can see here, everything kind of points to this part of the T-square. So three things. Full moon. This full moon is aspecting the ruler, and that ruler is part of this T-square, really placing a lot of emphasis on this action, because the T-square is about taking steps. It's about challenging ourselves. And in this case, with Jupiter in Virgo. So Jupiter's been in Virgo for the past roughly, I think it's been about 9 months now. It's been some time. And in Virgo, Jupiter has been helping us do the work, the day-to-day work. That might mean a lot of things for some of you. Some of you, it's your career. Others, it's your self-improvement, right? Whatever you do on a daily basis. But it's about your skills, developing your skills. Again, just like Gemini, both ruled by Mercury, practicality. How can we actually improve ourselves, improve our work, improve our environment in such a way that it facilitates this life path direction? And being patient with the whole thing, because the square is also about patience. All right, that it's important to take steps, but at the same time to see the larger picture, that we're at this halfway point of the year with Jupiter, right? The sun and moon, or I guess with the sun, halfway, right, in this square with Jupiter in a yearly sense. And so things take time. Things take patience, right? Resilience and the steps. So it is a time of patience, but patient action, patient steps, seeing possibilities and taking it one step at a time. So that's what Jupiter's about. It's about seeing possibilities, but in Virgo, it's specifically about the work. And what I always say about Virgo too is what I believe to be the best or a very good manifestation of Virgo is self-improvement, right? Diet, regimens, time management, energy management, routine, right? How can we improve ourselves? Because we are our greatest asset. And as long as we're striving for improvement, personal growth and personal development, then we're really focusing on everything we do have control over. Because so much in life we don't have control over, but we do have control over about how we respond, what actions we take, and whether we're striving for being the best version of ourselves we can be and taking care of the asset of ourselves. So very powerful with the T-square. Fundamentally, I think it is about doing the status check with Sagittarius, our worldview, our perspective, our beliefs, diving deep, okay, to do that with Pluto, facing the fears, seeing how our limited thinking or our fear-based thinking has been preventing us from seeing what is actually possible, because again, we don't know what the future has in store. and trusting our instincts, trusting our intuition, directing that into our purpose, and balancing that with the practical. Gemini, right? Rationality. Things that are possible are practical, because not everything we think of that's possible is actually possible. Only what is actually possible can be practically implemented. So we have to use the scientific, mathematical, reason, rational side of our brain, of our minds, of our perspective, in order to actually facilitate these things. Mars, the opposition, is helping us stay balanced, hopefully, taking a step back when the ego's holding on too tight, wants things perhaps now or immediately, or wants that control, right? Pluto's been helping that get stripped away, so we're more aware, less controlled, less, not holding on so tight, okay? And then the square to Jupiter, the pivot point, that it's emphasizing Virgo, work, day-to-day development, personal growth, personal development, all right, taking the steps to cultivate these perspectives and what is being illuminated at this time with our life path with Sag. I do also want to say that there is a minor sextile up to Neptune. Okay, it's not a major thing, but on a minor note, there might be some easygoingness with this. Perhaps we're more easygoing, even though, again, it's involving a lot of deep things like fears and stuff. We might be a bit easygoing, willing to go with the flow to a degree. And so listening to that can be a powerful asset to this illuminating time. All right, here's the transits. For those of you that want to see the exact times of the moon, when the moon will be forming aspects to those other planets I talked about. Again, the full moon is going to be 23:53 Eastern time. So for all intents and purposes, both days, Saturday and Sunday. As we get into Sunday, going into Monday, the sun will be getting very close into an opposition with Pluto. So I think a lot of what I said about, taking the step back with the ego, not holding on too tight, can be particularly important maybe after this full moon of integrating it. Okay. All right. So if you all have any questions, please let me know. Hope you have a fantastic full moon. Thank you again for all of your likes, comments, and shares with this video. And I will see you very soon for the weekly forecast for next week. Take care.